Baba is missing. Jayasri Guru. Jayasri Gopala. Jayasri Gomata. Dear friends, the hardest part of GoSeva is parting with those one has become attached to serving. This month was difficult as time separated us from three. In order for Kali Yuga to progress, all things auspicious must diminish. As the scriptures declare the cow to be all auspicious, it is not surprising that today's modern society manifests more and more hostility towards them. Natural predators, careless drivers, atheistic and cruel governments and increasing inhumanity are only a few of the formidable enemies plaguing cows around the world today. And at the root of all these lurks greed, who we know is not a cowardly foe. Sometimes we hear that our pages are too graphic and disturbing, but actually they reflect only a minor portion the harsh reality that permeates today's world. We proceed with the faith that problems are solved by squarely facing them, not by wishing them away or ignoring them. We are confident that together we can make a difference. We hope this finds you experiencing the happiness and inner satisfaction that accompanies GoSeva. We remain, your servants in caring for Sri Gopal's abandoned cows in Vrindavan. Care for cows in Vrindavana is inspired by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder Acharya International Society for Krishna Consciousness, CFC trustees Vraja Mohan Dasa Hayavalabha Dasa Amit Dhulani Rakesh Rahira, CFC staff Kurmarupa Dasa Nanda Kaiser Dasa Syam Gauri Dasi, Dr. J.P. Lavanya Pavan Kumar Pandey, Satyadeva Singh, Radhakaran Dasa, Krishnamai I Dasi, Sushil, Syamahari, Vijay, Ramu, Santosh, and Ramavati. Newsletter editors Kurmarupa Dasa, Syam Gauri Dasi. The CFC's TAF CA refercows.org. Care for Cows in Vrindavan IA, a charitable trust registered in India, USA, Holland and Switzerland. In Vrindavan portrait of the month. With deep regret we announce that Prema Sagar left us unexpectedly this month. Calves saved from a pack of dogs devour a dead cow thrown by the Yamuna. Vicious dog attack. Dog attack survivors Rukmini and Sati recuperating together. A sorry load is delivered to CFC. A vicious dog attack claimed the lives of at least 6 calves at a Gaudiya Yamath Goshala in Radhakund this month. All calves were tied down with short 2-foot ropes in an unfenced area and didn't stand a chance. The night watchman was oblivious to the attack. Dogs run wild in packs throughout Vrindavan and are often seen fighting over scraps of food to survive. Some Goshalas give their dead cows a Yamuna burial, which means their bodies are transported to the Yamuna river and dumped on the bank. Dogs fight for ownership over the carcass, and within hours a stripped skeleton is all that remains of the cow on the Yamuna shoreline. Dogs having a taste for flesh then prey on weak, sick, or injured cows and unprotected calves. Govardhan and Radhakund particularly are notorious for vicious pack killings. A few nights after the fatal attack at the Gaudiya Yamath, another attack was made by a pack of dogs at Surabhai Goshala in Radhakund. 2 calves were savaged by time the cowherd men could chase the dogs away, but fortunately the calves survived the shock of the attack. Their injuries were extensive and the local doctor was called to treat them in Sudivai's absence. 2 weeks later they were transferred to CFC for ongoing treatment and remain under our care today. Their names are Rukmini and Sati and they are ideal patients. Rukmini arrived with a chunk of flesh torn out of her left elbow, a deep puncture wound on the inside of her right back leg, and superficial teeth and nail marks on her legs. After 2 weeks of care her smaller injuries had all healed and the elbow wound was making sensational progress. The wound is cleaned thoroughly on a daily basis with cotton swabs of diluted iodine, sprayed with a debriding solution, and packed with sugar which promotes rapid new cell growth. A wound pad covers the wound and a cloth is tied over her shoulder to keep everything in place for the next 24 hours. An insect repeller is coated on the cloth at the site to keep flies and ants away. By month end Rukmini's wound has completely filled out and is in the final stage of healing. After cleansing the wound with diluted iodine, a debriding agent is sprayed on the wound. Sugar, which helps in debriding and healing, is packed over the wound. A clean cloth is tied in place over a wound pad, which keeps the wound safely covered. July 13, 2007, Rukmini's wound at first cleaning on arrival at CFC. July 28, 2007, Rukmani's wound shows excellent healing after 15 days of care. Rukmani's only duty is to eat well and gets lots of rest, doctor's orders. Sati is carefully lifted down from the truck and slowly walked to the cow recovery ward. Sati, the older calf in the dog attack, sustained the worst injuries with a large chunk of flesh stripped from the bone at her shoulder. A deep-seated pocket of infection in her right underarm has cleared and the wound is reducing in size as it heals. Her whole body is scarred with teeth and scratch marks sustained in the attack. As she heals, she needs nutritious food, rest, and lots of love and encouragement. Dr. Lavanya cleans Sati's wound moments after her arrival at CFC. Upon arrival, an exposed, chipped and cracked bone is surrounded by a contaminated wound. Dr. Lavanya packs a deep, narrow wound under the arm. At Care for Cows, we believe that cleanliness is the key to successful wound management. If an uncomplicated wound is kept clean and free of debris, infection, and flies, we've seen that nature takes its course and rebuilds and remolds layer upon layer in inconceivable ways. If complications do arise in the course of wound treatment, the setbacks must be dealt with immediately and closely monitored. Using sterile forceps, cotton swabs clean every nook and corner. Syringes of diluted iodine are flushed under the wound edges. Into underlying pockets, unpasteurized honey is squeezed through a long sterile nozzle into hard-to-reach places. Cane sugar is packed over the surface of the wound. A large wound pad is extended over the spine and under a cloth belt tied on the right. A clean cloth is draped over the shoulder and fixes the pad in place. July 13, 2007, Sati's demeanor is testimony of her dejection and suffering. Her wound is infected and squirming with maggots. July 28, 2007, Sati looks as bright and effulgent as her wound, which is flourishing with healthy new tissue that is gradually covering the exposed bones. Life on the streets. An abandoned cow nibbles from a bag of hay loaded on a cart. As Vraja's pasturing grounds disappear, Vrindavan's cows are feeling the pinch. Help secure land for abandoned cows by donating to the Care for Cows in Vrindavan Land Fund. Above, one of the 60 clean, peaceful, and noble residents at Gopal Ghat left, Haridas Shastriji Maharaja feeding his bulls ladus every afternoon. One of the founding members of Care for Cows Bull Sanctuary. Today it is a common and accepted practice for Goshalas to put their bulls on the street as soon as their mothers dry up. In complete contrast to this, Haridas Shastri Maharaja has built a first-class facility in Gopal Ghat where he keeps the male offspring produced in his Kaliya Daha Goshala. Indeed, it is a bull sanctuary. A large hall hosting 60 bulls has been completed and the second one is scheduled to be finished in 1 month. The hall is roomy, immaculate, well lit and ventilated. The floors are canted so that the urine is channeled out and it is easy to clean. It has a rough brick floor to prevent accidental slipping and the walls have exhaust fans in several places near the ceiling to expel the hot air. Each bull has his own feeder and water tank and they are fed to their full satisfaction. They are bathed regularly and have ample place for recreation and sitting. The bright faces of the bulls unmistakably testify that they are satisfied and happy. Their eyes light up when Maharaja appears every afternoon to place a ladu in each and every mouth. Haridas Shastriji's mood is that cows are worshipped by Krishna and thus are God's God. Hence, he offers his herd a very high standard of worship. Often cowherds from different ashrams come to CFC with a young bull trailing behind. The bull's mother has dried up, and anxious to shed their responsibility, they ask us to take them. They silently bow their heads when asked, if the bull is the personification of religion, Dharma, why do you want to give him away? Is there no room for Dharma in your ashrama? Haridas Shastriji is one who will never be asked this question. His facility at Gopal Ghat is a storehouse of Dharma and Bhakti is evident. Padmalakana and Madhu taking the children from Sundrak to the Sandipani Muni school. Did you know? Bhima in winter, black Bhima, the same bull, in his summer colors Giriraj Bhima. Just as there is a striking difference in temperature between Vrindavan summer and winter, so too is the color variation. Our cows adapt during these seasons, wearing rich dark coats for winter and cool light colors in the summer. Vrindavan cows can change colors. Ranjanai Govardhanvan Krishna in January. VK's color was predominantly brown. In March he was losing the brown coat from his neck. July, VK's face color is the same, his body is blue unrecoverable fall Gunga recuperating with a fractured pelvis at the end of June of Rajabasai family purchased a healthy milking cow and her month-old calf for Rs 8,000 at the Govardhan Animal Fair. After 4 days at her new home she was walked across a polished floor in the courtyard and slipped, doing the splits with her back legs, and the weight of her fall split her pelvis in two. Dr. Lavanya was called to the home to examine the cow and advised her owner of the complications in pelvis fractures and that unfortunately the cow would not be able to stand again. He recommended her immediate transfer to CFC so her needs could be cared for properly. She was however an expensive cow, and her owner was ever hopeful she would stand up and supply milk. In favor of other opinions he called several vets over the following week and tried various methods to stand the poor cow up. Exhausted in his efforts he finally loaded the cow on a camel cart and delivered her to CFC. Apart from the obvious pain of the fracture accentuated by the week-long manipulation, she suffered from fever, extensive bruising from the cart ride, and pressure sores developed from lying on a cement floor. One of her knees was also dislocated and was surgically corrected by Dr. Lavanya. Gunga's high temperature is lowered with cool wet cloths. Dr. Lavanya performs a small surgery to unlock Gunga's kneecap, which was painfully dislocated. Surgery successful, Dr. Lavanya closes the incision. 10 days later Gunga's sores are almost fully healed. Gunga suffered extensive bruising and pressure sores from lying on a hard surface at her previous residence. We named her Gunga, and for 18 days we cared for her, accommodating her in the sick bay which has soft Yamuna sand for bedding. We daily tended her wounds, carefully changed her sides, treated her fever and hemorrhages, and did all we could in an effort to alleviate her pain and suffering. Her gentle calf Hamsi would drink whatever milk her mom could deliver, while mom was lying down, and was supplemented with milk bottles and nursing from other cows. Gunga was a wonderful and cooperative patient and started showing overall signs of improvement. Her pressure sores were healing fast, her health was restored, she had a good appetite and she even started changing sides on her own. It was then a big shock for everyone when she unexpectedly passed away one night. Dr. Lavanya suspected the cause of death to be a heart attack. Gunga was put in Samadhi at CFC the following morning. Her owner was notified and brought her a special cloth and garland and attended the full ceremony, joining Gunga's carers in offering her incense, flower garlands and Gunga water. The group then circumambulated her Samadhi, offered obeisances and prayers and covered her in Vrindavan dust. A shock to everyone, Gunga suddenly passed away overnight of a suspected heart attack. Gunga's owner offered her Gunga water at the Samadhi ceremony. Final days for this month we received a seriously ill cow from Radhakund whose history was sketchy and the cause of her illness unknown. She had been down for 8 days and with no appetite was wasting away. She had a rectal prolapse and was unable to control spasms which made her push and apply continued pressure at her back end, and so she was at risk of a vaginal prolapse as well. Dr. Lavanya cleaned the prolapsed tissue, manually replaced it and stitched a purse string suture to stop it prolapsing again. He then gave her a thorough examination, including a pregnancy test which was negative, and checked for fractures to the pelvis and all limbs. Nothing was broken. Over the 48 hours she was in our care she was treated for diarrhea, dehydration, mineral deficiency, and weakness. She had developed on board the truck. The cow is placed on a stretcher to be carried by 7 men. Dr. Lavanya cleans the tissue before replacing it inside. The cow suffered from a rectal prolapse. Radhakund cow symptoms of hemorrhagic septicemia, HS, a highly fatal disease in cows and water buffaloes. The worst epidemics occur during the rainy season, in animals in poor physical condition. Stresses such as poor food supply are thought to increase susceptibility to infection, and close herding and wet conditions seem to contribute to the spread of the disease. A fever, dullness, and reluctance to move are the first symptoms, and if the animal is not treated with antibiotics at this stage they usually collapse and die 6 to 24 hours later. Either sudden death or a protracted course up to 5 days are also possible. As our cow's condition deteriorated she was placed on 4 therapy and went into a coma at 6 p.m. She passed away at 2 a.m. Early that morning she was placed in Samadhi at Care for Cows. As her condition deteriorated, she was maintained on 4 fluids, resting with her backside slightly elevated to avoid another prolapse. A purse string suture allowing 3 fingers space for passing a rectal examination to check for fractures to the pelvis. A black. The Welsh Assembly government have committed the most violent and ignorant act of sacrilege against our religion and desecration of our temple in destroying an innocent and sacred life. What a sad day to see our government behaving with such gross ignorance. The perpetrators of this act will suffer the consequences of their actions for generations to come. Scandavale spokesperson: police forcibly removed devotees from their place of worship. Brother Alex examined paperwork presented by an Assembly government official. 100 monks and pilgrims gathered for worship and prayer outside Shambho's enclosure. Shambho, the temple bull loved and cared for by devotees at Scandavale, Wales. Brother Jamie in prayer moments before police broke through to take Shambho INTHENEWS Day for Sacred Life. The temple complex's webcam showed officials approaching Shambho in his pen. Shambho was loaded into a truck and taken to the local abattoir for slaughter. The High Court judgment of the July 16, 2007 to quash the slaughter notice for Shambho, tested positive for BTB in April this year, was appealed against and overthrown a few days later in the Court of Appeal in London. See www.scandavale.org for full details. On July 27, 2007, before 8:00 am, Scandavale devotees received a fax from Govardhan Charitable Trust, a cow sanctuary in India, requesting the Welsh government to spare Shambho from slaughter. The trust was prepared to take Shambho, and shipping of Shambho was arranged by a supporter from Switzerland. Shortly after this announcement, government officials and the police arrived at Scandavale demanding entry to the premises to collect Shambho. The officials were forced to obtain warrants to enter the site. Meanwhile, continual prayers to celebrate the sanctity of life were held, joined by many devotees and supporters from around the world. Everybody present experienced the immensity of God's grace and power. Shortly after 2:00 p.m., the officials returned with 2 entry warrants. The unfolding drama was witnessed by millions worldwide through the extensive live media coverage. At about 4:00 p.m., police used bolt cutters to get through the gate to the temple precincts and moved their vehicles, including an animal trailer and 4 riot vans, onto the site. More than 60 police officers then started leading or carrying away worshippers from their position directly outside Shambho's enclosure. Shortly after 7 p.m., 3 men in blue hard hats entered Shambho's enclosure. After so much unnecessary hype about Shambho's risk to public and animal health, it was clear none of the officials took any meaningful biosecurity measures. No gloves were worn, no disinfectant was used when entering or leaving the pen, and a trail of straw was left littering the ground outside Shambho's pen. At around 7:25 p.m., government officials finally loaded Shambho onto a trailer and Shambho gave the devotees one last look. He was then driven away to his death. Our former owner took us to the Govardhana Animal Fair and sold us to a Vrajabasai family. Our new owners transported us to Vrindavan and kept us in room in their house. While it was nice to live with a family, it was not safe for us as the floors were slick and easy to slip on. A few days after we got there, my mom slipped and her legs split wide and she broke her pelvis. Dr. Lavanya was called to examine her and said that she would not be able to ever stand again. He recommended that they bring her to care for cows so she could be served like the other downed cows there. They took his advice and moved us there, where they treated my mom for bed sores and the scratches she sustained while moving her. She was not comfortable and I had to nurse from her while she sat down. After 2 weeks she passed on and they made arrangements for me to nurse from Mangala and Sanjeevana. So I am doing okay despite the unfortunate circumstances. Hamsi, they call me Karuna as I am very merciful and kind. I am getting on in years and am very peaceful and gentle. My last calf Sandhya is the joy of my life and we spend many happy hours together resting in the bowers of Belvan. It is a benediction to have an elderly mother as she is very experienced in taking good care of calves. She provides me enough milk and always offers loving encouragement. She is the epitome of good and I hope to become exactly like her. Sandhya Karuna, I came from Marwar and thus they call me Marwari. I was brought to Belvin to work, but I did not show much inclination for that. Who wants to work for someone who offers no respect? It was a long battle, but I was determined not to give in. Finally my owner gave up on me and brought me to care for cows, where I am living peacefully. My new caretakers respect bulls, so I may change my mind. Let's see. Marwari, I am a bit slow and very docile, so my former owner used to call me Fat Eye just to poke fun at me. I grew up in Belvin and am happy to be so close to the Yamuna. You may have seen my photo among the swimming cows. Actually, I am one of the best swimmers and have taught many of the calves how to swim. I hope to spend the rest of my days here, sending blessings to whoever decides to sponsor me. Falguni August admissions. I was saved from having to go to the slaughterhouse by Naga Baba. I was one of the first to be brought to Belvin, and I have been cared for here by Giri Maharaja since that time. I am very grateful to both of them for their diligent care. I have had several calves since my arrival, the latest being Nandu, who is a powerhouse of energy. I was born under one of the beautiful trees of Belvin and have been well taken care of since then. When my mom goes out to graze, I stay behind here and sport with the other calves. Sometimes we chase peacocks or just hang around being peaceful. You could say I am enjoying the easy life here. Nandu connect to Vrindavan by sponsoring one or more of our many residents. Rani, I was attacked by hungry dogs in Radhakund and they took a substantial chunk out of my shoulder. Were it not for some kind people like yourselves, I would have certainly suffered a slow and painful death. Thanks to all of you, I am now well on my way to recovery and should be able to live a normal life soon. Sati, I was also attacked by dogs in Radhakund. Except for kicking and fleeing, we cows have no way to defend ourselves. Our greatest enemies are the street dogs and of course reckless humans. The happy side of my story is that I am recovering quickly and will be back to normal within a month. Wish me luck. Care for cows in Vrindavan. Rukmani Baba is missing. Baba's mother died on a cold winter day when he was 4 days old, and we had to purchase milk and bottle feed him to keep him alive. At night we kept him inside an apartment next to the Goshala, and during the day he would bask in the winter sun. As long as he had his milk, he didn't mind being an orphan since the other cows naturally looked after him. He grew quickly, became healthy, showed much determination and was competitive in spirit. Padmalakana became like his older brother and they would spar for many hours together, strengthening their necks. Soon Padma was trained to pull the school bus and Baba was left behind as he was considerably smaller and not a suitable partner of any of the other working bulls. But when Padma would return from his service, he and Baba would continue their friendly sparring matches in the afternoon. Later Baba began his training and at times would pull the cart with Padma. He was strong and took it as a challenge and an opportunity to become stronger. But unfortunately, one day after the shoe fitter had tied Baba's 3 legs together at the ankles so he could change his shoes, Baba shook in disapproval and in the process dislocated his leg at the hip. Several attempts to correct the malady were unsuccessful and for almost a year he had a painful limp which left him irritable, unfriendly, and unable to work. In his frustration he would sometimes attack the cowherd men and toss them in the air. After a few such incidents we thought he might be happier in Belvin and that swimming may help the condition of his hip. We walked him there and he approved of the change. During the summer season we pay 2 cowherd men to take our herd across the Yamuna to getting bottle fed at 3 months old, at 2 years old sparring with Padma graze in the empty wheat and barley fields. Baba would happily go among them. One day when the herd came back to Belvin we noticed that Baba was missing. We immediately suspected that he had been stolen since he had a nose harness and could be controlled by anyone who caught it. We knew that no one would steal him for draft purposes owing to his visible limp, so we suspected he had been stolen to be sold to the butchers. We told the cowherd men who had taken him out that if they didn't return him, we would call the police. We accused them of accepting some payment to let the butchers take him. They pleaded with us not to involve the police and promised to bring him back the next day. The next day we sent a cowherd man from our Sundrak facility to the villages across from Belvin to search for Baba. We found out that one of those villages is where cows and bulls are held before they are sold to the butchers. We feared Baba may be there and sent our men along with a photo of Baba to rescue him by any means, including purchasing him if necessary. Upon arriving to the first village, he showed the photo to some residents there, one of whom recognized him. He reported that he had seen a bull like him on the western outskirts of the village. Our cowherd man rushed there only to meet the cowherd from Belvan who was walking Baba back home. It turned out that Baba had followed a cow in heat into the village where they had spent a 2-day honeymoon. I am the Surabhai in this verse, BG 10.28, Krishna reveals that among cows he is manifested as the Kamadhuk, meaning Kamadhanu, the original wish-fulfilling cows known as the Surabhai cows. In the Anusasana Parva of the Mahabharata it is described that the Surabhai cow descended from the spiritual worlds and manifested herself in the heavenly spheres from the aroma of celestial nectar for the benefit of all created beings. The direct descendants of the Surabhai cows are the sacred cows from the continent India, which are uniquely distinguished the same as the Surabhai by the beautiful hump on their backs and the wonderfully soft folds of skin under their necks. Since all cows in existence in the world today are factual descendants of the sacred cows of India, they are all holy as well and should always be lovingly cared for and protected with the highest esteem and greatest respect. One should never cause harm to cows in any way, even in a dream, and one should never even think of eating the flesh of cows, as there is no action more sinful in all of creation than cow killing. Danunam as my Kamadhuk, Danunam, of cows, as my, I am, Kamaduk, the Surabhai cow among cows. I am the Surabhai. The cows send their heartfelt thanks to those who assisted during July 2007 Advaita Karya Dasa, India Alessandra Petrassi, Italy Alla Nikolaeva, USA Ananda Dasa, Guatemala Anastasia Tsitsishvili, USA Anand, Singapore Arundhati Dasi, USA AC Ikunda Dasi, Australia Carl and Stella Herzig, USA David Kazanau, USA David Thornton, USA Dhruva Maharaja Dasa, India Dina Sarana Dasa, USA Hemant Ramana, USA Hendrika Hartsuker, Belgium Igor Driljevic, USA Isani Dasi, Holland Iskaup, USA Jayaraman Gopalan, USA Judith Talent, USA Kamadhanu Dasi, Poland Kamlesh Patel, USA Kathleen Fink, USA Laxman Dasa, India Mariana Polonsky, USA Maria Janina, USA Mayapur, Chandra, Champaka, and Padmavati, India Michael Meshuris. USA Nanda Dasi, India Nandarani Dasi, USA Nayan Rupar Elia, UK Padma Sambhava Dasa, NZ Param Dasa, India Pradipta Chatterjee, USA Pranal Bharath, South Africa Purnama C. Dasi, Portugal Radha Karan and Krishnamai, India Radha Jivan Dasa, India Radha Mohan Savak, India Radha Patti Dasa, India Rafal Wilajtu, USA Spirit of the East, UK Sravanananda Dasa, USA Steve Krenin, USA Swan Ng, UK Subra Tambaraja, Malaysia Sudarshana Dasa, Singapore Suresh Vajiani, UK Svetlana Kravchenko, USA Vananath Dasa, USA Vera Elizarova, USA Vidyasagar Lakand, USA Visvamhara Priya Dasi, USA